Louie Varland is off to a strong start this spring, which could bode well for the Twins, even if they're not ready to push Anthony DeSclafani that hard. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Austin Martin as a cautionary tale. And oh, by the way, a big trade in the AL Central. This is Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, how are you? It's Locked On Twins. I'm your host, Brandon Warden. You can unfollow me on Twitter at Brandon_WARNE. And back from practice, we're talking about practice. Mr. Dave Brown at Answer Dave Brown in the tweets, on the tweets, with the deets. What's up?
Well, it wasn't my practice. I don't soccer myself, but my kids do. So we had a 9-year-old's practice for soccer, and they did a lot of running, and it made me tired just watching.
Do you ever you've ever heard like how many 5-year-olds do you think you could beat in whatever activity, like basketball, whatever? How many 9-year-olds do you think you could beat in soccer? It's probably not many.
No, I mean I'm sure they're out there somewhere, but I wouldn't expect to beat any of them.
Probably for the best. Probably get you on some watch lists for things.
Well,
so
I wasn't
we don't
even thinking of that, but yeah,
we don't want you beating up on any 9-year-olds. This is not kicking and screaming like the old Will Ferrell movie. But thanks for making Locked On Twins your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Also on YouTube, we appreciate you hanging out in the live stream, which has been running at 11 p.m. Central pretty much every night. So again, we appreciate you greatly. Click like, subscribe, all that great stuff. Leave us comments. I love to go back and see what people say during the show, but also after. We have a lot of good conversation and discussion. It's a good way to stay involved in the show. This is episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Dave, I accidentally deleted my intro. That's what happened when I was doing my my preparation. So that little bit of a hesitation is what happened there. But as you know, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel called Locked On Sports Today. Baseball fans, mark your calendars for March 20th at 7 p.m. Eastern for the best MLB season preview, coming exclusively to Locked On Sports Today. It'll be on March 20th. You can be the first to get local insight from the MLB local experts of Locked On, and you can find it on the Locked On Sports Today channel, March 20th, again, 7 p.m. Eastern on YouTube or on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. So, yeah, some big things going on. I recorded that preview recently, and so it's going to be a whole heap of fun. Dave, today the Twins tied 1-1 with the Cardinals and took a 4-3 loss against the Rays. The one that I want to focus on first is the Cardinals game because Louie Varland went 4 innings, 4 strikeouts, gave up a hit, and then the final was a tie, 1-1, which spring training ties, who cares? Nobody cares.
I thought there was no tying in baseball. Tom Hanks taught us that.
Yeah, I think that's what he said. I have not. Do I even admit it?
Wait, you've never seen a League of Their Own?
I've never seen a League of Their Own.
We were supposed to save that for the big reveal about the show we were going to do about all our favorite baseball movies, and you haven't seen a League of Their Own?
Oh, nope. I haven't seen it. So we'll have to do that. I'll have to make a list of ones I haven't seen because there are a lot of them that would probably get me fired from this job. So we'll try to avoid that if possible. Louie Varland, though, or as I call him, Varlander.
I like that nickname. I mean,
yeah, it's kind of fun, isn't it?
It's good.
And he's a Minnesota kid too. So I mean, there's a lot of fun in there. Looking good, 4 innings. Stretched out to be a starter. It's not uncommon for pitchers to be stretched out as a starter and then become a reliever. And frankly, at the outset of spring training, it was unclear what role would suit him better. The Twins had what they expected to be probably 13 pitchers for 13 roles, with him being number 14. However, Anthony DeSclafani has been behind this spring. The Twins probably don't need a fifth starter until, I don't know, 7 to 10 days into the season. It wouldn't shock me if DeSclafani opens the season on the IL. They're going to try to get him ready. They're going to try.
Right.
There's not that much time left, Dave. So would you have Varland in your bullpen go with a 9-man bullpen, 4-man rotation to start the season? And then if DeSclafani is ready to take that first turn, you let him. If he's not, Varland is, for the most part, stretched out. You've got a good bullpen behind him. I think that's probably what the plan is, and they don't have to rush DeSclafani, who, we've seen all these pitcher injuries this spring. No real need to push him that hard.
You got to. Speaking of running, we mentioned running before with the little 9-year-olds in soccer practice. It's a marathon, not a sprint. The baseball season. Not everything has to be 100% ready to go for 162 games. You can start at game 6 or 7 if you're a little behind. You don't have to rush everything. That's kind of what the Yankees are sort of crossing their fingers right now with their ace Garrett Cole, that he's not a few days off, but maybe a month or two. But they want him to be there in July and September and October, and that's what the Twins want out of DeSclafani. So if his elbow is giving him caution or giving him pause, I think that the Twins are covered. And you mentioned how they don't necessarily need a fifth starter right now. But 9 guys in the bullpen sounds like a lot. And, I grew up in a time when there were like 4 guys in the bullpen. And so, yeah, I'm not going to go yell at a cloud or anything, but obviously a different game these days than say the 83 Twins would have played when it comes to that sort of stuff. But Varland, as well as we can evaluate the experiment right now, it's going great. He's got great stuff. It seems to play in a starting role. He's issued 1 walk in all of spring training. He's going to work on it. He's going to try and get down to 0. But Varland has been absolutely everything that he probably said, hey, Twins, this is what I can do if you just give me a chance. And the Twins said yes. And so far he's been, we'll forget it all if the clock turns to April and he's pitching and it's not going that well. We'll be like, see, we told you, Louie, you couldn't do it, because that's the kind of people we are. But as of right now, it looks like he's going to be able to be a major league starting pitcher.
Yeah, I'm eager to see if any of his changes will lower that home run rate, because that's really what's preventing him from being a factor in a rotation over the medium to long haul. Only 1 run on each side. Both teams scored in the 7th inning. Twins driving home a run on a Christian Vasquez hit, and Dylan Carlson taking Justin Topa deep to lead off the bottom half of the inning. Top half of the inning, rather. Sorry.
No dancing at the Topa Cabana today, because it was kind of a mediocre performance by Justin, and I'm sure we'll get better ones out of him later. But
yeah, he wasn't at the Topa his game. That's pretty tough. After scoring 0 runs in back-to-back games, Twins score 1 against the Cardinals. It's spring training. We don't care that much, but I don't know. It's just something to file in the back of your head that the offense has been a little sluggish. Manuel Margot hasn't hit. A bunch of guys haven't hit who will probably be better when the season starts. But again, I'm sure people are just kind of looking at it as though, I hope things get going. I hope things get going. Not much to talk about, though, on that side. On the Rays side, Twins face Brendan McKay, get to him for 3 runs early on a Michael Hellman homer, not Michael Hellman with mayonnaise money in his back pocket, but utility man who he could probably be a factor at some point this year if they really got to dig deep. But then Matt Wallner going left on left. You and I did this, Dave Brown. We did this.
We shamed him into hitting.
Left on left.
Matt, where is it? You've been to the hitting coach. You've started 1 for 20. We know this isn't acceptable. You're 26, going on 27 years old. When are you going to do something with your life? That's basically what our show was yesterday. I mean, we really weren't quite like that, but we're like, Matt, hello.
Grow up.
And he did today, and he's fine now.
He's good now. Well, Speaking of good now, let's talk about PrizePicks. It's North America's largest daily fantasy sports platform, and we're going to get to that. And then when we come back, we have a little thing that you brought up about Austin Martin and how hard it is, even as a high draft pick, to make your way to the big leagues, especially even as a college player where it's considered likely to be a really short path through the minors. And oh yeah, by the way, gigantic trade in the AL Central. So we got plenty to talk about here. But first, let's talk about PrizePicks. Like we said, PrizePicks is North America's largest daily fantasy sports platform. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports because it's just you against the numbers. You're not facing people who are running algorithms. You're not facing someone who's entering 50 lineups. It's just you and the numbers, and you pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. The app has this feature that's new called Demons and Goblins. So demon picks are marked in red and they're tougher. They are less likely to hit, but that just means when they do, you make that much more money. So you can bet $10 and win 100 if you've got a 100-time multiplier. But if you're more cautious, you can always use a goblin pick. It's marked green because it's designed to keep you in the green, keep you making the green, and allowing you to land consistent victories. Payout is less than a demon pick, but it's a safer way to go about things. If you're into the NBA, you can pick more than or less than on three-pointers, turnovers, you name it. Spring training baseball, you can go more than or less than on strikeouts, first inning runs, again, you name it. So download the app today and enter the code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's LOCKEDONMLB, all one word and all lowercase. Get that first deposit match up to $100. Join PrizePicks today. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
Did you hear that scream? That blood-curdling scream? Is that what you were laughing at?
Yeah. Yep, that came through on my end. I don't know if listeners will have heard it, but
it's very sensitive microphone equipment. So it's that's the kids upstairs. Apparently they didn't get enough energy out at soccer, so they're up to some kind of shenanigans. I've told them to keep the screaming to a minimum.
Up there rollerblading and all that kind of fun stuff.
Really good. It's hardwood floors. You never know with these people.
Perfect. So we were actually having a discussion because peek behind the curtain, we're recording a little earlier this evening because I'm not feeling all that well. And so we were kind of kicking ideas around, and you actually served one over that I hadn't thought of about Austin Martin, and just basically how he's a cautionary tale for even if you seem set up to hit the ground running as a minor leaguer coming out of college, high-end draft pick. He's not going to make the team out of spring training. And to this point now, he's far enough out of the minor leagues or out of college where it's like, okay, has it been, he's not a bust, but has he been disappointing? And there's been injuries. The wrist thing is obviously tough to come back from because you can't lift the ball as much. And that's why his slugging has been down. But that's all this a long way of saying, like, there's no guarantees. We saw the White Sox make a trade. They're getting some prospects. No guarantees. We'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, I just kind of want to leave the floor open to you and see what you have to say.
Yeah, really good feature on Martin by Do Young Park at MLB.com today. Just kind of talking about the road that he's taken. I mean, he's not there yet. It's kind of a long and winding road, going from a top 5 or 6 overall pick and a something like a top 15 overall prospect. Maybe even better than that. I'm not sure, but he was very highly regarded. But injuries and other things have kind of kept his progress down. Something with both arms, ligaments in both arms have given him trouble. You mentioned injuries before, and it just sort of goes to show you. I mean, he's not a bust because he's still a kid, but he definitely is in a position where he's got to like reprove himself.
Yep.
And the world kind of goes on without you, even though you're still a highly regarded prospect, and the team still has hopes that he's going to contribute even this season. They bring in other guys. There's other people to play the outfield. There's other people to play shortstop, and not necessarily prospects, but viable major league players. People like Willie Castro come along and make it less urgent for the Twins to have to do something at the major league level with Martin. So he's definitely in a position where he's got to kind of start all over again, not necessarily like rebuilding his game, but sort of rebuilding the respect that he had and the cachet that he had as a respected prospect. So it's a huge year for him one way or another. It doesn't all necessarily have to happen at the major league level, but he's got to reestablish himself at St. Paul first, and give the Twins or some other team a reason to want to put him on the active roster. And it just kind of how you said, Brandon, it goes to show that even guys with great pedigrees and maybe short roads as teams figure them, going from college to the majors, there's some steps that you can, if you don't skip them, you can sort of hop over them. There's no shortcuts. And sometimes the road takes you completely out of your way. And Martin still has plenty of opportunities to make himself a name in the major leagues, but it just goes to show that you can't take any of that stuff for fact until it happens.
Yeah, he was as high as 2021 19th for Baseball America. So that is a really, really lofty prospect status. Let me ask you something. If the Twins could go back and do it over again, do you think they still make this trade for Barrios and then getting back Simeon Woods, Richardson, and Martin?
Well, I think I mean, would Barrios be kind of helpful to the team right now? It's funny that you mentioned that. I was thinking about this with the White Sox trade of Dylan Cease. That I guess they don't expect to be contenders next year either.
Spoiler alert! I'm kidding.
Yeah, right. Well, I figured people had kind of heard about it.
If you're listening to this, you know that Dylan Cease has been traded, or if not, let me also clue you in on something else. We landed on the moon.
Right, we did. Carl Everett might not believe it. Carl Everett wasn't sure about the moon or dinosaurs, or that dinosaurs landed on the moon. But I'm telling you, it happened. And don't ever question Buzz Aldrin about it, because he will punch you.
If Carl Everett and Milton Bradley had like a celebrity death match style match, like the old claymation show from MTV.
Yeah, with Mills Lane.
Let's get it on. Yeah, I think that would be a pretty great fight.
They're interesting characters. I interviewed Milton once, and it was really good. And he was very thoughtful. And of course, there are other times when maybe he wishes he had thought things out better. But we definitely landed on the moon. But Dylan Cease, we don't want to scoop that part. But Jose Barrios, would he look good in the Twins rotation, taking money out of the equation? Yeah, absolutely. That would be just kind of what they need, a number 2, number 3 starter. And he had a good year last year with the Blue Jays. Would they do it all over again? I think so, because you need to make trades like that sometimes. When you don't necessarily want to tie yourself to a long-term contract with a guy. Simeon Woods Richardson is still it's not at a place where, he was in the very low minors, but still highly thought of when they made that deal. You have to make trades like that sometimes, especially when you're the Twins, a team like the Twins with restrictions that they put on their own payroll and philosophy in that regard as far as money goes. You need to make trades like that, and you need to be not afraid to make trades like that. So, and the deal could still work out. We're not kicking Austin Martin to the curb, and Simeon Woods Richardson, Twins fans know, has had a really good spring, and I think is going to be an important player for them the rest of the way.
Yeah, it's kind of wild that Simeon Woods Richardson has been traded for Marcus Stroman and Jose Barrios to this point in his career. And I think some important factors to consider with this Barrios proposed undo of the trade. The Twins were not going to give him 6 years, which he wanted. I don't know if 5 years was the sticking point or what exactly. He did have one bad year in there. He possibly could have hit free agency, been a qualifying offer guy, and signed elsewhere anyway. So there's a lot of things you have to walk back as kind of a, what do they call it when there's a bunch of different outcomes can happen if you go back in the past. It's not. Is that the butterfly effect? I don't think it is.
Well, it's something like that. I was thinking that sounds like a Star Trek episode or 10.
Yeah.
That's not what you mean. Yeah, there's a bunch of different. There is a word for this. Permutations. Is that no? Is that not it? But
I know it's I know that my calculator in algebra 2 could do permutations and what was the other one? Permutations, the order was important, and then salutations. I don't know. I have not taken math for a long time. By the way,
that's my salutation. Hi.
one of my recurring nightmares is that I haven't turned in my calculus homework in 20 years. And technically, it's true. But
is that going to be? You're going to get downgraded there for being late.
Yeah, about once a month I get that. And my high school baseball coach was my calculus teacher. So he's
really?
Yeah.
Oh, so was he like an analytics guy?
Well, it's 2004, so yeah, Moneyball was kind of new. You know, a lot of those guys were still on the A's. How far back we got to go for that one. But let's take a quick second. We got to give our friends at Gametime some love. And then I got one question a friend of the program asked about Austin Martin, and then we'll close it with some Dylan Cease analysis. If you're looking for tickets in your local marketplace, whether you're trying to see Taylor Swift or Michael A. Taylor, I guess that doesn't work because he's not on the Twins anymore, but Gametime is the place to go. Download the app, and it couldn't be easier. Figure out which marketplace you're in, or market. Twin Cities for me, KCMO for Mr. Dave, and it finds you not TV shows, but music shows, comedy shows, sports, live sports, obviously, all kinds of crazy stuff that's within driving distance for you, and they'll give you the best deals too. You don't have to worry about a bait and switch where you commit to buy a ticket at one price and then you end up paying a whole bunch of fees at a different price at the end. The price you see is the price you'll get. It takes 2 taps and you have your tickets. You get complete peace of mind. You can see your view before you even buy the ticket, so you know exactly what you're going to be looking into. None of those obstructed view seats like Fenway Park or Tiger Stadium back in the day. And you also can get the guarantee where if you find the best price elsewhere in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. That's called the Gametime guarantee. So again, you'll always get the best price. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the app. It's the Gametime app. Create an account and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. But again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDON. That's LOCKEDON, all one word, for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Dave. Friend of the show, Zach, wants to know.
Hi, Zach.
Hi, Zach. Yeah, we love Zach. After listening to your podcast this morning, thank you, Zach, I had a question. Do you think Larnach is still over Martin in the outfield hierarchy due to his major league experience, albeit not super impressive, so that if Wallner were to struggle more than we hope, would Larnach be the guy because of that? I think it also comes down to, we talked about Larnach having one option. He's 27. He's outfield only. I think all of those things not only put him higher on the hierarchy. That's a mouthful. You, sir, are a mouthful. The
highest Archie.
Yep, the highest of Archies. And
that's in St. Louis, by the way.
I was thinking of Archie C. and Frockel from I think the Padres back in the 90s.
For sure.
Yep, I used to have that card, and the name always messed with my 8-year-old brain. I had no idea how to say it. What was I talking about?
You're talking about is Trevor Larnach
no
ahead of on the Larnachy, on the higher Larnachy.
Higher Larnachy. I think the fact that he's outfield only and corner only works to his advantage here, because if Wallner struggles, again, homered today, that is probably the lateral move. And so with that said, I think for Martin to have a little more runway in the big leagues, I think you would have to be more along the lines of, and again, we're not putting this out there into the ethos. We don't want Willie Castro to get hurt. but that's the kind of thing that would have to happen.
I
Kyle
wasn't
Farmer.
expecting you to say that just now. Not only are we not hoping or expecting it, I didn't see that one coming.
We don't want it, frankly.
The Manuel Margot could play center.
Yep.
Castro could play center. I don't know if you want to put anybody else out there, really.
Well, Kepler is kind of a no-go out there because apparently he doesn't want to play center, which is...
I wouldn't either. It's the ball comes at you funny, straight ahead. I get where he's coming from. He's fine out there.
I kind of like playing center, though. Like, obviously not with my body type, but with like my instincts. And like, I always liked reading balls to center, left and right, and running all the gaps. So when I was faster, back when I ran a 4.9 40, which for me is pretty fast, that was a little easier. Now we're probably closer to 5.5, 5.6. And
you mentioned getting run. You weren't referring to Austin Martin precisely when you said that, but I think Martin needs to kind of get going at St. Paul. I think that's what his mission is right now. I don't think it's come and help the team right away. So I think Larnach, with all the major league at bats that he has already, is I think he's the go-to guy if something should happen to Wallner. And of course, something also depends on what's wrong with him? Is he in a slump? Is it a really long injury? Is it, so, but there's also, if anybody's going to jump, it would be Rodriguez. I think that would be, if he gets off to a hot start in Wichita and like a semi long-term need, I could see that him being scooped up for that.
Yeah, I could too. Well, we can't get out of here without talking about the Dylan Cease trade breaking today. Late in the afternoon, Jeff Passan with the shocking news that AJ Preller pulled the trigger and got Drew Thorpe, Samuel Zavala, Jairo Iriarte, I hope I said that correctly, and Steven Wilson. So it's prospects number 5, 7, and 8 via MLB Pipeline. And then Steven Wilson's pretty good reliever going into his age 29 season, probably more along the lines of the White Sox saying, listen, our bullpen is going to be very, very bad. We've got some injuries out there, John Brebbia, Prolander Baroa, a bunch of guys. So they're going to need bodies out there, but he is pretty good. I mean, I wouldn't rule out the fact that he's one of their big guys out there, but probably more of an audition for who will he be traded to at some point. But in all, I think Preller and Chris Getz, I think they both did okay, but I'm convinced that AJ Preller is like the heel version of Jerry DiPoto.
Yeah, right. Oh, I like that. I like that that imagery and that analogy. Yeah, it was. I mean, if you've been really paying attention closely to the Dylan Cease trade stuff, like all of the rumors, the Padres they've come up in the last couple of days. It's like, yeah, people are like, I've heard the Orioles are in on this, and maybe the Yankees, but there's another team out there. And then someone else said it was
the mystery team.
What's that?
The mystery team, as John Heyman would say.
Somebody pretty quickly figured out that it was the Padres. So
when in doubt,
this trade tells me two things. One, the White Sox were kind of desperate to get something for Cease before something bad happened and he had no value. I think that's what they're worried about.
Giolito 2.0.
Some kind of colossal injury. And two, it tells me that they're not, when they hired Cease or when they hired Getz to be the GM, Jerry Reinsdorf's excuse for not interviewing anyone else was that Getz was coming up through the organization and knew it and could affect a turnaround quicker because he had all the experience in the organization. He knew where all the bodies are buried and if they even bothered doing that. So it made sense for that reason. And then, of course, like a few days after Getz got the job, he's like, this is going to take me longer than I thought. So it ended up making no sense that Reinsdorf didn't go out and interview lots of other qualified candidates because he wasn't interested in doing that. So Cease under contract for this year and next year. It tells me that the White Sox aren't interested in competing next year either. Yeah. You could tell that from the kind of moves they made in the offseason. They took themselves out of the race. Not that I expected them to be good or competitive. They're way behind the Twins. But they're certainly there's no doubt that they were packing it in for this year and apparently next year too, because Cease would have been nice to have on that comeback team next year, but he's gone.
I would like the record to show that I did not make a good as it gets pun, but I did tweet, call the White Sox armistice because they had a ceasefire. I'm not proud, but it is what it is.
I wouldn't be proud of that either, but that's fine.
Right. What are the
I
Yankees?
think you need to desist right now from the puns. Cease is gone.
Well, hey, we're not talking about the Twins right now. I want to talk about the Yankees. What are the Yankees doing? Because
it's a great question.
You got about a minute here. I just want to know.
That's not enough time.
It's a double whammy for them. Garrett Cole missing 1 to 2 months. I think that's a very, very aggressive, optimistic look at it. Elbows are tricky. They're in a tough spot, man. I mean, we talked about Stroman and we talked about Rodon. That's a tough 1-2 or 2-1, as it were.
It's a little shaky based on how Stroman ended last season. Although he seems fine in spring training, Rodon has been mostly bad in spring training. Mm-hmm. Lately, maybe a little better, not as awful as before. And it's a matter of health, I think, with both of them. I don't think it's something where they've lost their skills. But I don't know what the Yankees are doing. It was obvious that they weren't really interested in Cease because they said they didn't want to trade their big prospect, but the White Sox didn't really get someone like that from the Padres. So right. Spencer Jones. We're going to go over our 32 minutes here. So
no, it's fine. I screwed up, so we got time. Yeah, I agree, and I'm surprised they didn't get Jackson Merrill or, like you said, Spencer Jones from the Yankees. But
they weren't going to get Jackson. I mean, everybody was persuaded that Cease is, his contract's going to be too short here because he's going into free agency in 2 more years. So they weren't going to get Jackson Merrill. Jackson Merrill's probably, I don't know if he's going to break camp with them, but he's going to be up pretty soon.
Yeah, well, they had a Cease burning a hole in their pocket, and now he's no longer their problem. Hey, thanks, everyone, for hanging out with us on Locked On Twins. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, me. We'll check you out later, and we'll see you tomorrow night.